Every time I hang out with people who are in a traditional 9 to 5 job, I always hear left and right, only when you have connections in the industry, like only when you know someone in the HR, only if you know some friends who are working in the company, you get a chance to land a job. I am so happy that I am not in a 9 to 5 job. I am so happy that I have built my whole coaching business without any connections in the industry, because I believe it's one of the biggest lies you can believe is when you are building a coaching business, a consulting business online, that it is like you need to know people in the industry in order to make money, leave a bigger impact, and grow your business. Right? I hear a lot of times still people who are coming from that 9 to 5 having this mentality like, I would be further along, I would be further ahead if I knew the right people. If I had a bigger network, if I had influential friends, if someone could introduce me to their 100K followers or 100K audience. And especially for women of color coaches and consultants, it can be very easy to look at someone else's success and think like, of course it worked for this person. Look at who she knew. Look at who she is surrounded with. And I actually want to tell you something with this video, that when I started my business in 2018, I had zero connections. Zero. Literally, I have built this whole business from my childhood room in Germany. I knew no one in the industry. Nobody knew who I was. Nobody even could pronounce my name, right? I didn't have an influential network. I didn't build my audience for years already. I didn't have people sending me clients every single week on my way. I didn't have somebody opening the doors for me. I was the only one who was opening the doors and told myself, walk in. Because I started this business from my childhood room in Germany, only with the phone and my laptop. And that was it. And looking back, I actually think that became one of the biggest advantage. Because even after my bachelor's, I didn't have any networks when I joined the first company. And I'm really grateful for that, because that helped me to embody this mindset and to actually, taking it with me to my entrepreneurial journey, that actually I don't need anyone to know me or to introduce me in the network to actually get me more opportunities. I started to believe from the beginning that I am the opportunity, that I am the only one who creates opportunities for me and for my business. Because I couldn't rely on who I knew. Because all the people I worked with are strangers from the internet. Literally strangers, one from Canada, one from London, one from Spain, one from Portugal, all over the world. And I don't know personally all these people. So I had to learn how to make strangers at the end of the world, over oceans, trust me and trust the skills I've got to help them to solve the problem. So there is a huge difference between access to clients because somebody introduced you to their community, right? And having the skill to create clients. There is a difference. And I had to learn in my experience since 2018, how do I get somebody who has never heard of me, they never saw my name, they never saw who I'm looking like before stopping the scrolling on Instagram and YouTube? How do I get better at communicating and articulating the problem so well enough that the lead, the prospect thinks, oh my God, this person is talking to me? right? Those are the skills that I needed to learn to turn a stranger to completely trust me without a big influencer or a big successful coach, to introduce me to their community to get me clients every single week. I learned how can I actually communicate the value of my offer? How can I create content that changes how my community, how the prospects I already have thinks? And those are skills. And those are skills that no one actually can ever take from me. Those are the skills that I will always know, even if I end up at zero, even if I know I am actually living on the street, I can use those skills to build up the business again, because that communication, that articulating the value is one of the biggest skills you have to continue to learn in order to stay in business. And that is what changed everything for me, where I realized I don't need to build a big network. I have to build the skill of articulating the value and communicating what I do for my people, like how I actually solve a problem from a different angle, from a different perspective, from a different point of view. I have these glasses, right? And this is how I see problems differently, not because of the glasses, but because of my lived experience, because of how I solved the problem on my own for myself. That is my point of view. That is how I solve a problem different than all the other coaches in the industry. And that's why some clients are choosing me while other clients are choosing someone else. And that's okay, because the way you are explaining the problem, the way you are articulating the value, the way you are telling your people how you solved this problem in a different way, even though you had XYZ circumstance, is how you are building the trust with strangers, and also where the strangers are feeling like, yeah, I'm in the same exact situation, circumstance right now, and I need to work with XYZ coach in order to solve that problem with my specific circumstance. And that is the point of view, that is the perspective we also need in your messaging, in your content, in the way you are talking about your offer, so that people see that how you are differentiating yourself in the industry. And a part that I don't want to leave out is, when I started, I didn't have any connections, but I invested a lot of money, like thousands of dollars, in proximity. And I do believe that is how I didn't learn the skill alone, because I invested in myself from day one, when I had the seed in my mind that I actually don't want to be in a 9-to-5 job anymore. Like, I want to build a business. I want to be a business owner. I want to do something. I want to be free. I want to have this freedom. I want to make a lot of money. I want to travel the world. So I don't want to have like a 9-to-5 job. I invested in myself from the beginning. I joined mentorships. My first mentor was from Canada. I joined other people's programs. I always paid, right? I always invested my own hard-earned money in proximity. I paid to get closer to people who already understood the things I was trying to learn. I was trying to develop. I was trying to get better. Not because I expected them to hand me clients. I never joined a mentorship with the thinking like, oh my God, if I go into this mentorship, I would definitely get a client, right? I actually went there with a different mindset. I wasn't building access to somebody else's network. Even now, I don't even use their network. I was buying access to knowledge, to feedback, to perspective, and to skills. I learned a lot about online marketing. I learned a lot about messaging, positioning, and sales messaging. Like, I learned a lot about sales and how to communicate my offer value, my expertise, how to actually put in the circumstances I had when I had the problem so that I can sign more clients and create demand. And eventually I developed something that was far more valuable than somebody introduced me to one potential client. The ability to create clients using my own content. Just imagine you are constantly relying on somebody else's network to sign clients. That's not your way of signing clients. That is like, let's say that one person you are relying on closes their business. Let's say they are, I don't know, from today to tomorrow, you are not even friends with that one person anymore. You are not even in connection with that person anymore. Now, how you used to sign clients is gone. Now, still you need to learn from the beginning how to actually create clients using your own content. Because maybe you are currently thinking, I don't know enough people. Maybe you are thinking my network isn't big enough. I didn't go to the right university. I am not living in the same country as my clients. I don't have friends in this industry. That's okay. But what if you don't need them to, right? What if instead of asking, who do I need to know, right? Who's the next successful entrepreneur I need to know, or whoever is in your industry, you have to ask a different question. And the question is, what do I need to know how to do it, right? What do I need to know how to do it? Because again, connection might open one door, two doors, but that's it. But a skill can teach you how to create doors and opportunities over and over again. Over and over again. And that's why I will always preach from the rooftop that you don't need any connections to make money in this online industry. I'm proof of it. And that's why that is my perspective. If a client tells me I need connections or otherwise I cannot sign more clients, I would tell them that's a lie. Currently, you are just lazy to learn the skill. You are like too comfortable to learn the skill of creating clients using your own content. I told you always I'm straightforward with my clients because I want them to succeed not only one time, but again and again and again and again. So a skill can teach you how to create doors, open new opportunities over and over again. And if you know how to create sales messaging that makes strangers feel understood, how to build trust, how to create content to create the demand, and you know how to create buying beliefs step by step, and you are selling at the end, you can enter a market where almost nobody knows your name, right? And you can start creating opportunities. And that is incredibly powerful. And I want more women of color building businesses to actually know that you may not have inherited the network. You may not have grown up around entrepreneurship. Maybe you are the first entrepreneur in your family. That's good. Welcome. I am also the first entrepreneur in my family. And it is okay that you may not have people in your family who can introduce you to investors, to clients, to other business owners, right? You may look around and feel like other people are 10 steps ahead of you. I am not going to pretend that access and networks don't matter. Okay? Absolutely, they can create advantages. But not having them does not mean you cannot build it on your own. The internet, and in being 2026, has given us something so incredibly powerful. The ability to put your ideas in front of other people that you have never met. Your YouTube channel can introduce you while you are sleeping. This is why I am investing all my time right now on YouTube, because you create a content piece once and it can be discovered in 2, 3, 5 years down the road. Your podcast can introduce you. Your email list can introduce you and your ideas and your offer and the price of it, and then book a call with you. Your content becomes the introduction that you didn't have. That is, in my eyes, even more like a network, even more access to the industry than relying on people to introduce you to investors, clients, and other business owners. So what do you need to know? You need to develop the skill to communicate something worth paying attention to. Not only money, because first you need that attention. So I hope this video opened your eyes to stop waiting around for somebody to discover you. Stop believing like a 9-to-5 mentality that you need to get into the right room before your business can grow. That's still a 9-to-5 mentality. That's still a 9-to-5 mindset, in my opinion, believing that only network and only connection can work to introduce you into new opportunities, and waiting around that, waiting for someone to introduce you and your offer into their community, right? Sometimes you do need to get into rooms, but get into those rooms to develop yourself. Not because you're hoping somebody inside that will save your business. Don't rely on somebody else to save your business. And that's what mentorship did for me. I invested in rooms. I didn't have the money, but I still invested into rooms, into mentorship. I took a loan that helped me to become better. Better at messaging, better at sales, better at communication, better at community building, better at creating clients. And eventually, I didn't need somebody to hand me their network. I'm so happy that I never relied on somebody else's introduction to their network. I learned how to build my own audience, and I turned strangers into clients using my own content. So if you have this feeling like you are currently with no new connections and you want to sign the next 3 to 5 clients, I want you to remember, with the right content, the sales messaging, it is possible for you and for your business. Because you don't need everybody to know your name. Then you need the skills to make the right people stop when they finally hear your messaging. Again, connections can give you opportunities, but the skill you are building will give you the ability to create opportunities all over again. And again, that's an asset that nobody can take away from you as a woman of color coach and consultant. If you're ready to grow your business, to scale your coaching business, consulting business in the next 6 months, and you want to coach, you want to have feedback, coaching, and workshop with me and with all the other women of color coaches around the world, click the link below and let's talk in a 60-minute call to know where the gap is in your business and what we need to fix in the next 90 days to actually keep the snowball rolling again. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I see you in the next video. Bye!